The NHS is in serious trouble and it really needs our help now. And I don't see anyone talking about openly what is really going on within the NHS and what is preventing making it better, really. And if you think about it, the NHS is the last thing which is still uniting all of us here in the UK, right? It's like everybody loves it. Everybody wants to keep it the way it is. I've made some notes. I've been preparing for this video for some time. I understand this video is going to be probably seen by wider audience, and it probably will bring a lot of people who will start hallucinating of what I'm saying or want to talk about, and they start calling me names. So before we get to anything, I want to make two quick statements just to make it clear. The reason for this video is I'm not here to promote privatization. And in fact, I'm going to tell you the opposite of why I think it shouldn't be done and how far the privatization has already gone within the NHS. I'm not here to make any money out of it or to sell any business solutions. I've been working in private healthcare for many years and never ever I made any money out of the NHS myself or any of my businesses, okay? I've invested hundreds of thousands of pounds in the NHS in different medical projects. I've helped companies integrate into the NHS. I've seen it all, how it works, but I was never out there to actually make money because I believe in the NHS as the system, which is more than just money, okay? And the only reason the NHS is great is because of the people in the NHS, not the system itself, but I will also talk about this. And number two, I don't mean to be divisive. I don't mean to say bad things about something and expect to be people coming in and just click biting it and just, having a great time watching people fighting each other. This channel is about talking about controversial topics because that's years of my experience in business and in life taught me that the only way to solve any problem is to first to talk about this, nail the problem, and then offer a solution, okay? I can't see anyone talking about problems and never to mention offering real solutions. Therefore, I am bringing it up. Hopefully, can start some sort of conversation and we can maybe at some point get somebody involved and maybe in the near future we can start fixing the system because it's so important we start doing it now, okay? I divided this video in 4 different segments about the NHS. The good, the bad, the ugly, and at the end I'm going to tell you about the beautiful because the NHS is still beautiful and that's why it's worth saving. It's crucial to save it, okay? And if you stay with me long enough, at the very end, I'll tell you the real truth about the privatization of the NHS and how far it's already gone. Because, unfortunately, not many people are aware of it, but the privatization has been going on for many, many years, okay? And it's not this government, it's not just previous, it's been going on for years. Until we understand this, we're going to have people coming here angry or anywhere else whenever somebody mentions NHS saying, oh, our NHS, leave it alone. Guys, I know, but it's already happened, okay? We need to understand this, nail it, so we can offer a solution. Right, let's start with the good. I'll keep it short because I think everybody's well aware of why NHS is great, okay? It's there free of charge. I know it comes from taxes, whatever, but it's out there for us free of charge to make sure if you collapse on the street, there's a 99.9% chance there's ambulance coming, they'll pick you up, take you to hospital and do all they can to keep you alive. Yes, we know it takes time. There are some severe pressures on the NHS. That's fine. We're going to talk about this later. But the idea of the NHS is brilliant. It's been around here for many, many years, helped millions of people, and most importantly, is built by amazing, super dedicated medical professionals, doctors, nurses, all people around the NHS. And I've had the privilege to work with these people for many years over the last, 10 years really. And I've seen it. I've seen them firsthand. I've seen them in action, right? And you have to understand, lots of these people, especially doctors, are under severe stress and pressure from the government and from the collapsing system. They are the system. They are the NHS. They are the blood of the system. They are the ones keeping all of us healthy, relatively healthy, but alive, okay? So we need to understand this. This is the beauty of the NHS. We want to keep it this way, but in order to keep it this way, let's look into what is really not working. Let's look into the ugly part of the NHS, then the beauty, and then the privatization. So the next part is the bad. It's important to understand that the NHS has been built for a system which is no longer existing. Okay, I mean, the populations change. We have aging population, way more people within the country, immigrants or not, doesn't matter. There's just more people. We have less people contributing towards the NHS. People on benefits, people not having jobs is another topic for another video. And the system has been pretty much unchanged since its beginning. Okay, so we moved ahead so much in tech, in how the country is, what are our current health problems, where the NHS was kind of left out without evolving with the system. Okay, we were only trying to patch up all the holes in the system to kind of make it work until next election. And now, unfortunately, we're getting to the point where there's a wall. We can't break it through with our heads, and the system is crumbling in front of us. Okay, and of course, it's a great topic for politicians because they can use it against us, divide us, and then just divide and rule, right? But unfortunately, it's up to us, people here in the UK, to understand the problem and demand a real change, locally first, and maybe then on nationwide scale. The big problem about the NHS, why we have now, is the NHS has never been about prevention. Okay, it's reactive. It's not preventative. We understand now that treating a disease is much more time-consuming and much more expensive than preventing a disease. And because the system was designed this way, we are now in the place where aging population with chronic disease, more health problems, are severely stretching all the NHS resources, right? And number one, the most important thing to understand about the NHS and its future, there should be a move from being strictly reactive. Oh, here you go. There's a pill. There's an antibiotic. There's come to hospital. We're going to treat you. To, hey, we're going to have to be very open about options based on your age, what your health, current health, what you're trying to achieve, what are your problems, and how we actually minimize those affecting you in the future. Okay, so essentially leading to less people going to hospital or to doctor because they will have better health for longer. So important. Not many people think about this. Okay, and the NHS hasn't been built this way to address this. This has to be addressed. And one more very quick one is the absolute bureaucracy, which is crippling any kind of innovation in the NHS. It's killing the NHS from within. And I'll tell you about this when it comes to the ugly. And I'll bring you up the project I've been working on, which cost me a few £100,000. It was about flying commercial drones between 2 hospitals in the UK. And basically bureaucracy killed it. So let's move to the ugly. Now, everybody needs to understand, it might be not comfortable, but it has to be understood that NHS is driven by money. Okay, there are profits here and there are money coming in, money coming out. And because it's been run inefficiently, the money spent in the NHS is not spent the best way. Okay, I'll give you examples. The project I've been working for 2 years ago, drone project. It was a project I paid for my own company. A lot of money. We spent a few years preparing that project, getting all the permissions from Civil Aviation Authority, Mayor of Birmingham, Midlands, the council in Birmingham, the whole government organization within Midlands, a big task, big project. Eventually, when we managed to secure all the permissions, and it was absolute horror to go through, everybody was super keen to get it going, but nobody wanted to give it, the go, right? Nobody wanted to sign it. And it was just going through this bureaucracy, which was absolutely, I wouldn't do it again. Let's say it this way. Okay, so the only way for us to innovate within the NHS is to actually enable innovation and make people and businesses offer their innovative services and solutions faster. We now have AI developing in the speed, like within the weeks or months, we have new AI coming up, right? It's hard for me to keep up, and I'm really interested in AI. So if we have, imagine the bureaucracy in the NHS, which is basically crippling anything coming into the market to any kind of tech innovation, because we're going to have to go through all the checks, all the governmental, all the departments, all the bodies, governmental bodies approving or disapproving things, right? In theory, they're there for our security, our safety. And of course, the NHS has got the gold standard of services and it's recognized across the whole planet, which is amazing. But because we never had the conversation about this and we're not sort of allowed to have this conversation even now, we're not going to move ahead. Because if you think that we get a business coming in with the new tech and new innovation, and they're going to have to wait 2, 3, 4 years for the government to approve it, or the NHS, then I have some bad news. We are not going to make it, okay? We don't have that much time anymore. This should have been done many, many years before, expecting tech development, right? And just get these things in place. But obviously nobody's done anything.
With the new Tech First training programme, that's up to 1 million young people trained in tech skills that will be so crucial for their future. That's a £185 million investment embedding AI right through our education system, starting in our secondary schools with subjects like computer science.
Because for all different reasons. But what's the most ugly thing about the NHS is how the public contracts are awarded. Okay, a big money, big guys, big decisions, and they're affecting NHS big time. I took part in many public tenders in the UK within the NHS. A few of them were for my own businesses. There were other tenders which I was doing on behalf of the companies I worked with, or companies which hired me to help them integrate into the NHS or expand services in the UK. And I have to tell you, the lack of clarity is absolutely horrifying. Average person in the UK thinks that because it's a public organization, there are measures put in place and security measures preventing a system from being abused. Nothing further from the truth. The system is being abused constantly on a daily basis. You can imagine these are the contracts for 5 years for millions of pounds. And I witnessed it myself many times where the contract was awarded to a company based on the particular personal preferences of person awarding the contract, instead of actually what the contract can bring to the table, the efficiency levels, money saving, etc. The average person would imagine the system is designed to keep this abuse, or at least minimize it, right? No, nothing further from the truth. Like I said, there are massive contracts worth tens of millions of pounds being awarded to companies which have been working within the NHS for like decades, only because person awarding it likes the boss of that company or the manager or whoever else, and ignoring all other important aspects of the contract, okay? And now, if this happens, potentially the company has got an option to fight for its rights. So if you're one of the companies which is left out and you think it's unfair, you can bring it up and you can take it to court. Now, imagine private company taking the NHS to court. Right? That's going to be huge. That's really bad PR. People are going to say, oh my God, this bad business people taking our beloved NHS to the court. The problem is, without having obviously transparency, but without having anyone responsible and taking responsibilities, personal responsibilities for the decisions they make, we will never be able to fix it. I personally know the company which took the NHS trust to court because they said the contract was won, and it wasn't a fair contract worth lots of money, and they won it. They won. The court gave them the win, so the NHS had to give the contract to the company which won eventually in court, but that costed the company tens of thousands of pounds, months of wasted time and energy, or well, invested in this case. But what's most importantly, after it happened, at the end, nobody bear any consequences of this really bad decisions. And it was clear, the court decided, the contract was awarded unfairly based on personal preferences, which is huge. It affects all of us. It affects all NHS. So if these things happening, if I say at least a couple of times, I know personally a CEO of the company who decided to go this way. And eventually his company managed to offer a lot of efficient solutions, smooth the processes and save money for the NHS by providing better services than their favorite provider from within, working with them for the last 10 years. And you can see it everywhere, right? We understand, like, if you work for the NHS for long enough, then you have your connections. And there are some people, they like each other, they do things together, and they just make decisions together. It's going on within the NHS. Everybody needs to understand it has been going on within the NHS for a long time. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of pounds lost every year because somebody out there making decision based on what she or him like, rather than what's the best for the system, okay? On top of it, if you're small startup tech, as it is now, the tech is moving so fast, right? There's lots of small companies with young founders, very smart young guys, being able to solve tons of problems for the NHS. They will never gonna be allowed to be part of it because the big boys with big money, big lawyers, big everything, and friends in the NHS will not allow it to happen. How do you do it? How do you move ahead? There is no solution unless we have personal responsibilities for people awarding contracts and winning them. There is no responsibility, okay? Because when the contract has been awarded falsely to somebody, which they shouldn't, at the end, there was no consequences, okay? So they only, what they did, say, well, okay, we now have to give this contract to somebody else, sorry about this. That's it. No consequences. So you can imagine, if you have no consequences in abusing the system, what are you going to do? Well, I'm not, you're not, but many people will abuse the system. No, that's how it works. That's human nature. And last one, even if you know about problems like this, unless it's me talking on my YouTube channel and maybe somebody will listen, there is no place where you can go and you can complain. There is no a person in the NHS, a boss, big boss, who's going to say, oh my God, is this really what happened? Let me look into it. And then they will bring, they will make some changes so it never happens again. No, nothing happens. You just move ahead. Don't look at it again. Don't talk about this because I'm going to start talking about your company as you're going about our NHS and people will hate you. And that's the reality. Unless we can bring accountability for all these processes, millions of pounds on the line, and a real improvement and innovation within the NHS, nothing will gonna change and things will go down as far as they can and eventually they break apart. And guess what's gonna happen? The big boys, big companies will walk away having their money made and people who were part of it will just move ahead and are probably going to start crying how bad the NHS is now run and how bad the NHS has become and all of that, right? But they never take responsibilities. Look at what's going on in London. Look at all these things. Nobody's taking responsibility, right? I had the other video when I talk about this, when the mayor of London is personally responsible. He's the boss. It doesn't mean he's done it, but he's the boss. If London is falling apart as it is, it's the mayor of London who's responsible. And exactly. There is nothing happens with it, right? Sorry, and then he leaves. Even doesn't have to say sorry, he can just go away. Terrible. If you have a business, you make a bad decision, you're responsible, you bear consequences. Same goes with your life, personal, professional, whatever, right? When it comes to government contracts, nobody's responsible, and we're talking about hundreds of millions of pounds online. Imagine what's going on behind the scenes. I don't have to imagine because I've seen it. Now, let's talk about beautiful, because there is a beauty in the NHS, and that's why we need to fight for the NHS and keep it the way it is and save it. And the beauty of the NHS is not the system itself, but the people within the NHS. I had a privilege to work with hundreds of people across different departments, different places, different projects within the NHS. And I have to say, the vast majority of the people are super dedicated, super professional, and really care about the NHS. The problem is, if you have a well-structured bottom and at the very top or in the middle management there's 1-2 bad apples, they'll spoil it all, right? That's how it goes. It's just, you can't keep it all, the bottom really great and then have top, which is a bit, and then expect great results. So the people with the NHS, especially the people on the ground, your doctor, your nurse, your medical provider, your medic, paramedic, ambulance driver, all these people are super dedicated and they all could leave any moment because they could find different jobs. They don't, for you, for me. We have to fight for the NHS, for them and for our future, okay? And our kids' future. There is no political solution where they say, we're going to throw more money on this group. We're going to throw more money on these doctors, young doctors, senior doctors, nurses, because you're going to have to keep throwing money on the old NHS. All they say, all while millions of pounds are wasted every month, every year on inefficiencies, on the corruption, and on things don't work anymore. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Can it be changed? 100%. How? We're going to have this conversation. You're going to have to listen to this conversation. You're going to have this conversation with your friend or your family to understand. And then we're going to have to put the pressure on our local politicians and maybe politicians across the country. Say, guys, let's stop pretending, okay? Let's stop talking about our beloved NHS and dividing society further. Let's address the problem and start fixing step by step, starting from the very bottom, okay? And let's reward the people who are really working hard at the bottom. And don't forget, lots of them are immigrants, okay? So be careful when you're one of those people saying immigrants are not welcomed. Well, be careful what you wish for, because the NHS is basically run by the immigrants a lot, okay? And nobody cares where you're from as long as you are professional and you can actually help. And the last one, The privatisation of the NHS. I've had a comment under one of my previous videos about this, where people basically saying, oh my God, what if we don't want to privatise it? Like, guys, it's already been going on for years, many, many years. London itself been divided in different sectors, north, south, east, west, by the companies who are taking part in, it's called private-public joint venture, where public company, NHS, and the private company, whatever, join forces. They set up the company where the ownership is 51% NHS, 49% private. Therefore, it's still private, publicly owned company, but private has got 49%, okay? There's only 2% difference, 1% to be equal. And you go to any hospital nowadays, you have private wards, you have private clinics, you have private providers within the hospital. It's not by accident, it's already happening, okay? The good thing about privatization is, about how it was, is it hasn't been allowed to go wild. Like, there are many companies, which I know about, American companies trying to enter the market in the UK, and they were not allowed to, for that particular reason, because somebody somewhere out there is trying to prevent the complete privatization of the system. But the more the NHS collapse without us trying to fix it, the more we ignore the conversation I'm trying to ignite here, the more people, or some politicians, you will hear about them, will come to the public and say, guys, the only solution is to bring private, and you're going to have to start paying £5 first, £10 then, £100. Eventually, you're going to be like in America, right? Hey, you broke your arm? Fine, £20,000, please, or we're not going to put you together. The privatization is already happening. Let's not talk about what if. It's already here. We need to address it. And the only way to address it is to, again, we need to have accountability, personal. If there's a person who signed agreement with private-public joint venture, that person needs to be responsible for these things going forward. And the next person coming in needs to take it from that person onwards. So we have a continuity of real responsibility within the system, okay? Because look, if every 4 years comes new politician, what do you think what's going to happen? They're just going to move on. They're going to get contract in that private company. Thank you. Come on in. Now you're CEO, director, board of director, chairman, whatever. And you're just going to be like, yeah, let's move on. And never going to end. That is it, guys. I wish there was something more maybe pleasant, but that's the truth. And I've seen it myself firsthand. I've seen it over and over. And what I'm saying is truth. If you want to have a conversation with me, by all means, please do. Have a comment, leave me a comment below. Please be respectful. If you want to call me names, yeah, whatever, I'll handle it. But maybe just don't. Maybe just leave. If you're really angry or triggered, just save yourself time, save me your time, and just move on, okay? I'm just talking to people who want to know the truth, and maybe 1, 2, or 3 out of there can help, can do something, right? It's an internet. You never know how things go. We can go really big. Who knows? Hopefully. If you like this video, please leave me a like, leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribing yet, and if you think you want to support me, and let's have this conversation because it's super important. Okay, thanks so much for your time, for your support. I'll see you soon. Cheers.